Hello MTC artists, welcome back to Art Outside the Classroom. My name is Jenna and today we will be making salt dough sun plaques. And that definitely is a tongue twister, but if you're curious what a salt dough sun plaque looks like, this is somewhat of what our finished product will look like. Now if you notice, it looks a lot like a cookie. That's because salt dough is made up of all-purpose household flour, salt, of course, and water. Now you do not want to go eating these. First of all, they do not taste good. Imagine eating a handful of salt and sand. Not good. Also, if you have any dogs, keep this away from them. They do not know the difference and it can make them sick. So make sure even your finished product that it is kept out of the way of any curious pets. Making salt dough is so simple and easy. It takes a little bit of adjustment to make sure you're getting the right consistency, however. But please do not feel limited to just making these sun plaques. There are tons of great ideas on the internet. You can make beads, you can make necklaces and keychains, you can make your thumbprint in that. So this is only one idea out of many. I will be walking you through my steps. Feel free, oh my gosh, feel free to make your own sun plaque, put your own designs in there. I love to see the creativity in your art. So to make your salt dough, you will need some all-purpose flour, a little bit of table salt, some cold water, a bowl for mixing and a spatula of some sort, a 1 cup measuring cup, and then some tools for carving your dough. You can really use anything, but I like something with a straight, sharp edge. So this recipe makes about 3 to 4 working servings of salt dough. So make sure you cut it down to your needs. But you can go ahead and add 2 cups of all-purpose flour to your mixing bowl. I like to shake it down to make sure that it is compacted in the mixing cup. Next, we're going to add 1 cup of salt. And then, last but not least, we're going to add our cold water. The trick is to add a little at a time. This is the same with normal baking. You don't want to flood your flour with water. So add a little bit at a time, incorporating it and stirring it thoroughly in between. And I forgot to mention that is 1 cup of cold water, by the way. Whew, as you can see, that's quite a workout. So my suggestion is if you have a friend or a partner with you that you swap off to make sure this dough is thoroughly incorporated and even throughout the mixture. So once you feel like you have the right consistency, we're going to dump our dough out onto a clean surface and we are going to knead it. Looking back at this, I realized that my dough was still a little bit wet. What I did was I went back and added more flour and salt. But here I am kneading it. What I'm doing with my hands is pushing it forward and together and then pulling it back. Knead your dough for about 3 to 4 minutes. The longer the better. However, your hand does melt the salt a little bit eventually. So try to keep your surface cool and the environment around you cool as well. Once you're done with your dough, let it rest for about 20 minutes before you begin handling it again. So let's begin by working on our baking sheet. We will be baking these in the oven at 250 degrees, but I found that handling your salt dough creation after you've sculpted it makes things a little bit tricky. So I like to build my sculpture right on that sheet pan. So make a ball of clay and I want you to put it on your pan and start flattening it out with your fingers and your wrists. Next, using some kind of circular thing, I used a cup, we're going to mark out the center of our sun's face. What I'm doing is gently pressing my cup into the salt dough and lifting it up. Remember, my dough is a little bit tacky here, so it actually stuck more than I wanted. Next, I am gently patting down that outer ring with my fingers so that I can actually extend the rays of my sun, which I'm going to use to cut with some kind of knife. You can use a butter knife. I'm actually using this palette knife for painting. But what I'm doing, using that inner ring as a guide, is I am carving out triangles all the way around my sun, and I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup in between. So, like I said, I'm just cleaning up here with a little bit of different tools. And then what I'm going to do is reinforce that ring one more time using another little stamp of my cup. Next, I'm going to begin building the face. What I'm doing is pressing my fingers into the parts where I believe the eyes would be. And then adding two small rolled balls and placing them right in the middle of those divots. Next, I'm going to work on the nose. What I'm doing is I'm actually rolling a ball and then on one side flattening it. I'm pressing it down into the middle of the face, dragging the corners out and blending them into the rest of the salt dough. You will see it creates a nice nose effect there. And moving on to the mouth, I am rolling a snake-like shape in between the palm of my hands, but it is getting a little bit hard to work with considering my hands are melting the dough. Add a little bit of extra flour to yours and you will not have this problem. Next, I'm going to add the cheeks. The cheeks are just made by taking round pieces of dough and flattening them out, putting them evenly on either side of the face above the mouth. So at this point, I'm making a few adjustments on my sun plaque. I'm just adding a few more details, such as eyebrows and eyelids. You do not have to do this. I think this is a good stopping point for many people. However, to add the eyelids, I'm just adding a disc-like flattened shape above the eyes. And just using my tool to correct any imperfections that I'm seeing. So next we're going to add a few more little extras using a paintbrush, which we will use potentially later on in this lesson. I'm going to create holes for the nostrils. What I'm doing is gently pushing into the base of the nose and wiggling around to make the holes slightly larger. And then we're going to do the same thing for the pupil of the eye, the middle of the eye, gently pressing down into that circle that we added. So this next few bits is just me fussing around about with my sun face. I end up adding a top lip and pushing the cheeks out, making sure that they're nice and clean. I fix the eyebrows just slightly, and any edges I see that are a little bit wonky, I'm flattening out my rays as well. For my final detail, I will be taking my palette knife and pressing it into the middle of all the triangle rays all the way around. There you have it. This will give it a nice extra little detail. I'm just pushing in my nostrils and my eyes one more time, and that is it. We're going to pop this baby in the oven at 250 degrees for about 2.5 hours. You can keep an eye on it and you'll know when it's done when it's completely dry and crispy all the way through. It'll be completely hard. So here is our finished product. This does not have any treatment over the top of it. And like I said before, it kind of looks like a cookie. And I kind of want to change that. So what you can do actually is add acrylic paint over top. That is not watercolor, just acrylic paint that has the plastic in it. And you can do a nice coating of that and that'll lock it all in and make it a little bit shinier and transform it a little bit more. So I'm gonna try that out and I'll report back. Otherwise, I think it's fine to leave it as it is. It's natural, it's rustic, you're really embracing the craft of salt dough. See you guys soon. If you choose to paint your sun plaque, I recommend using just small bottles of acrylic paints. I have a couple of each color here, a black and a white, a cup for water. I'm going to use a sponge to apply some of my paint, as well as a flat head brush. It doesn't matter, any brush will work as long as it's about medium size. And then a small paintbrush. You use the back of this before to poke holes in your eyes and nose. And here we go. I'm going to quickly sponge on some yellow paint here. I have a little bit of orange mixed in there. I'm not being too particular here. I'm just doing it, trying to get as much coverage as I can. Moving on, I'm painting some cheeks. I'm painting them a nice bright red and bringing that down into the lips. When I've got most of the paint off of my brush, I'm going to dry brush over the top of the yellow to create a nice red texture. I added more red to the rays just to add a little extra pop. And now what I'm doing is I'm going back into my eyes and adding some white paint for the pupil. This should be in almost an almond shape. I'm sorry that my hand is blocking a lot of this. What I'm doing now is I'm using some purple to create the middle of the eye. Purple is the complementary color to yellow. That's why it's popping. That's why it's a good color choice for this. Going into the mouth, adding some, and then I'm making a nice ring around the whole entire sun shape, bringing that purple down into those little ravines that I carved into the rays, those little middle lines. Paying attention to detail, I'm painting that bottom edge of the sun. You might not be able to see it from straight above, but looking at it from the side, you can definitely see that I did not cover that with that yellow paint. So I'm fixing that real fast, making sure my craft is in line. So using some green here, I'm going to go around the purple I created for the eyes and then bring that color one more time down in dot form to the rays. This will pop because green is a complementary color to red. Lastly, I'm taking a little bit of black paint and I'm outlining the eyes. But not to leave the black just in the eyes, I'm going to go through and I'm going to add some into the nostrils. I'm going to outline the exterior of the purple, and I'm going to bring that black into other places such as the base of those lines in our rays. I'm circling the cheeks. I'm adding some to the mouth, any place that I think needs a little bit of extra contrast, a little bit of extra oomph. And yay, there we go, it's all done. We picked up on a lot of nice textures with the paint from the salt dough, and we really added a lot of punch with our color choices. That's it for today. As always, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I'll see you next time.